Outlook. This week, a Texas teen from a wealthy family avoided jail time after being charged in the deaths of 4 pedestrians while driving drunk. Many are now wondering whether the case will set a precedent for affluenza, the affliction psychologists cited in the trial. Let's have a closer look.
A wealthy Texas teen who killed 4 pedestrians while intoxicated has been sentenced to 10 years probation. 16-year-old Ethan Couch had 3 times the legal drinking limit in his blood following the accident on June 15th. His lawyers argued his affluenza was to blame and said his family's wealth and lack of parental oversight justified rehabilitation.
There's nothing the judge could have done that's going to lessen the suffering for any of those families. If we could do that, we would. But we applaud Judge Boyd for having the courage to issue the sentence that's going to give Ethan Couch a chance to develop into a productive citizen and try to make amends for his actions.
A juvenile court judge in Fort Worth ruled in Couch's favor on Tuesday and said he would be better served by enrolling in a $450,000 a year private rehab center. The decision has angered family members of those killed in the accident and led to questions about the defense strategy.
And ultimately today, I felt like money did prevail today. That if Ethan had been any other 16-year-old without parents of influence and money, that I believe the outcome and the circumstances would have been different. But for probation, for 4 lives and the 2 serious injuries, I don't get it. I'm sorry. I just don't get it.
Authorities say Couch stole 2 cases of beer on the night of the accident and later struck and killed a stranded motorist and 3 Good Samaritans who had stopped to help. 2 of the passengers in Couch's pickup truck were also seriously injured.
Tough case there, and obviously we just heard prosecutors were seeking a 20-year prison sentence. The judge gave the teen 10 years probation. We're going to start off, Dr. Bart, I want to just ask you what affluenza is.
Basically what it means is that someone who grows up in a very wealthy family doesn't understand the real consequences or the real trials and tribulations of life, and therefore they might not have the right perception and they don't realize exactly what they're doing and the consequences.
But where's the argument that they have more advantages than a...
It's a ridiculous argument, and you know, when they say you can get an expert to say anything, unfortunately in this case apparently it was a psychologist who said this about affluenza. I think it's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense, and I think that we should be talking about the consequences here. This kid should have some real time to serve, and to the community too, by the way.
Bob, obviously you've been an attorney, you've been a police officer who was shot. When you see something like this, what do you say? And I also want to talk about that judge. But
well, what I found out about the judge here, there was a juvenile, 14 years old, black male, that she sentenced to 1 year in jail, that got out of a car, struck someone, punched him, and killed him. So she did send someone to jail for a death. For this case here, the attorneys that were hired did their job. Just like Justice Scalia said in one of the cases, I don't want a competent attorney. I want one that's going to get me off. I want one that's going to make a win.
Are you worried that this could set a precedent for the nation?
It's something that could be raised. I mean, as myself as an attorney, I raise a lot of defenses, you know, on behalf of clients to keep them out of jail. But you got to remember, this is a juvenile setting, not an adult. And juvie is more rehabilitation. Had he gone to jail, he might have did 2 years. Would it help? I don't know, especially for the family. But the parents, you know, they got exactly what they wanted.
I'm going to ask everybody to put on your robes now, and you're going to act as judge. Dee Dee, if you were the judge serving this case, what would you have sentenced this teen to?
I would have given 10 to 20 years. I think this judge is evil, and I think should not be reelected, and there must have been a payoff or something. There's corruption here. There's no doubt about it. You do not have 4 dead people and then have a kid just get off on probation. Absolutely wrong.
Bob?
He should have been sentenced away in a confined area, not like a country club where he's going to be going to.
Okay. How many years would you have given him?
Well, even if she gave him 20, he would only serve about 2, based on the juvenile laws that they have down in Texas.
Wow. So even if he was sentenced to 20, he would have gotten only 2?
He should have been charged as an adult. That's what they should have done.
Well, I was going to say that.
That's when the mistake came in.
Yeah. Dr. Bart, you're the judge now. What would you sentence this teen to?
As the judge, he should serve at least 3 or 4 or 5 years. And I also think part of that sentence, or after that sentence, he should do community service. He should really get out there and tell people how dangerous it is to drive while drunk. And I don't think that there's any message here. I agree with Dee Dee to a great extent.
Got away with murder.
It's just that this guy's getting away with too much.
Well, and I was going to say, you know, we saw the prosecutors there. They were almost in tears.
Yeah.
Does this case make you angry, sad? I mean,
it makes me sick to my stomach, because there's absolutely no way the judge got a payoff. The judge is nuts. The judge is wrong. I mean, it is unbelievable what this judge did. 4 people died. This kid stole alcohol and killed 4 people, and he gets probation?
Bob, do you think that this can be any way appealed? I mean, can you? Well, Texas law, obviously.
The prosecutors can appeal the sentence if they're not comfortable with it. Whatever plea went through about the acceptance that he took responsibility for the deaths, it's the penalty phase that can be appealed.
So he's getting 10 years probation. What is that? I mean, obviously it's a slap on the wrist, but really, in terms of Texas law, what's going to happen to him?
Nothing really.
Nothing.
Terrible.
Dr. Bart, how does this make you feel? And how do you think, maybe as a psychologist you can touch on this as well, how does this make the country feel? I mean, this is really, it means that you can go do something so horrifically wrong. What does that say about society?
Well, great point. I feel that the behavior of the judge here is in question. I mean, the prosecution presented its case, the defense presented their case, but what about the behavior of the judge? And to your point, I think we're all sensitive about judges and the judicial system the way it is. We have a lot of question marks on that, and this brings in more question.
Well, that's why they have appeal courts. So if they make a mistake at the trial court, it can be corrected at the appellate
And this is so horrendous. Don't you think there's a good possibility of it being overturned? I mean, this is so terrible.
Well, from what I read, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
This judge is elected and is not going for re-election, and her term ends in 2014. So it's basically she's retiring.
She's retiring on this.
So some payoff or some
I'm surprised
favor.
that this is what she would want her legacy to be, though. I mean, this is an awfully controversial.
But he was a rich kid, so who knows? And people get paid off all the time. You hate to say it, but there is corruption, and this smells of corruption.
You agree with that, Bob?
Well, in a lot of states, the judges are elected. In New Jersey, they're appointed. And then once they have 7 years, they have tenure. So this judge here would have had to run for re-election, decided not to. And basically, again, the parents had something that they paid for with their attorney. Whatever happened after that, that's what the appellate court's for.
Well, a lot of people are talking about this case, but do we want to hear them talking on their cell phones on airplanes? That I'm not sure if you've heard about that. A lot of people are talking about putting cell phones on airplanes, and I guess it's the fact that from a technology standpoint, it can be done. So it should be offered. That was the argument from many of the techies. Agree or disagree?
I don't like this idea at all. I mean, when we know something about human behavior here, we all do. As a psychologist, I just think it's a bad idea. We have so many weird personalities that we sit next to on an airplane.
Hey, don't be careful. Don't be looking at me when you say that.
I mean, I just think we need to go down a different road here.
Okay, Bob?
Well, if you're on a plane for about 4 or 5 hours with everyone on their cell phone, I don't mind the texting. But to actually hear all the conversations going on?
Oh, I can't even imagine. And people speaking loudly because of the engines. I can't imagine. And as a person that flies a lot, I don't want to hear it. Dee Dee?
I like it. I want to be able to use my phone. And you know what? I was on the train. I came here, and this guy was so loud and obnoxious and awful.
But imagine the airplane engine.
And I didn't like it. But you know what? I mean, if you're going to do it on the train, you should be able to do it on the plane, too. So I'm all for it.
Well,
you can put some earphones in or something.
Well, I'm not so sure about this one, but they are going to, I think for shorter flights, let's just say for shorter flights, like especially if you're on those business flights, those where you're hopping an hour, 2 hours, something like that. But an overseas flight, I do not want to hear that at all.
I do. If it's going to be that long, I want to be able to use my phone to make a phone call.
Uh-oh.
You're going to see a lot more fighting on these airplanes.
Yeah, well,
I was just going to say they're going to need some security on those flights coming up, because I can't imagine. And I'll tell you an interesting point on it, which really is digressing a little bit, but I was on a flight, and they served this man, they served him like 7 drinks in a 4-hour flight. I'm like, what would happen if he had a cell phone on top of that? And they couldn't take care of him on that. So I don't know. I'm not for it.
Bad behavior.
Three
Oh,
out
I
of,
like it. Give me my phone. I go crazy when I don't have the phone in the plane. I hate that. I hate not being able to use it. So that's a good time for me.
All right, 3 out of 4 agreed with getting rid of the cell phones on the plane. But Dee Dee, okay. All right, well, we also had the Golden Globe nominations this week. Now, Bob, I know you're an attorney and you're a police officer, so we'll let these two take this one.
Well, you know what it was? I'll tell you right now, the one that's going to win the best movie, 12 Years as a Slave.
Did you see that?
Yes, I saw that. That was a sleeper, but when I saw that movie, that is probably the better one. I thought Captain Phillips, but 12 Years as a Slave.
I have not seen that yet because I haven't had a movie theater that had it around me. Dee Dee, any thoughts on
Well, that is politically correct, and a lot of times Golden Globes, they do that. But the one thing about the Golden Globes I really like, I just like the actual show, because at the Golden Globes, they're sitting around at a table, and they're eating and drinking, and it seems like it's sort of more festive. And also about the Golden Globes this time around, Netflix, I mean, they have really participated, and they've changed sort of the look of Golden Globes, so I think that's really cool. I think it's going to be a good one.
How about, and there were some phenomenal actors in this as well. I was like, you know, Meryl Streep was going up against Kate Winslet, and some of the categories, I mean, how do you take Robert Redford and I'm like, well, give it to him. I mean.
Yeah, but what about Captain Phillips, though? Because we have that one, the black captain there that took over the ship. He's just such an interesting character himself, personally, to make it on the big stage like that.
I don't know much about him. Can you quickly share that?
I think he's from Somalia, and I think he had no acting experience before at all. And he tried out for this part, and now he's nominated.
Wow.
And he came from nowhere. So that's why I think this film might have a little bit of an underdog status to maybe make something happen.
I love Captain Phillips. The only thing I didn't like is that you never saw his wife at the end and have him reunited with his family. It was something that I didn't like about the film. But let's also talk about a lot of big nods to the Brits across the pond. Not as many American nods. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, I think it's terrible. I think it should be all American. We're the film capital of the world. I don't know what they're thinking, those darn Brits.
Well, 12 Years a Slave and America Hustle. Another one I did not see. Did anybody see that one?
That one is just coming out now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
it's just coming out.
Didn't get to see it, but that has to do with the ab scam with the political Congress people in New Jersey.
Oh,
yeah,
we're going to have to watch that. We need to come back to that.
And what's the other one with Sandra Bullock and
Gravity.
Gravity. Did anybody see that? I am actually.
No.
I know that people absolutely love that, but I mean, I always try and see all the movies right before the awards show.
Gravity, the special effects were excellent. The story, so-so.
Yeah, but you know what, Golden Globes, I don't want to say they're snooty, but I think that they're a little. I don't want to say it's more of an upper crust intelligent group, but I think they're not going to go for Gravity. I think they're not going to go for the special effects, which we love that, but it's an international group. I just don't think they're going to go for that.
Well, it's always also a precursor before the Oscars and everything, and I don't know why the Golden Globes is any less elite than the Oscars, but certainly a lot of great movies to go see. So it's a great snow day here in the Northeast, so maybe we can all go to the movies after this. So thank you so much, Dr. Bart, Bob, and Dee Dee.